There's guys out there that know how to win within a budget and who understand talent evaluation and know how to get things done. If you were disappointed, you wouldn't continue to roll with Jerry Dipoto.
Well, happy off season, everyone, or happy playoffs to some of you all. Hopefully you're enjoying the playoffs, or hopefully you're enjoying Mariners off season where you don't have to watch the Mariners play disappoint. Oh, wait, never mind. The Mariners always seem to find ways to draw attention amongst themselves, even throughout the playoffs, even when they're not playing. And that is all thanks to our friend or fiend, John Stanton, majority Mariners owner. And before we get into that, Steve, how are you doing?
Oh man, I'm excellent. Yeah, I was going to push back. We're not in the off season yet. There's there's still playoffs to be had. Out here in the great state of Michigan, those Detroit Tigers have quietly snuck into the playoffs and then quietly beat up on the Houston Astros. So I guess that's a feather in the cap of Mariner fans a little bit. At least the Houston Astros, didn't get to enjoy the riches of the spoils of the riches. But outside of that, man, it is what it is. That's the funny, there's that old saying, right? Same shit, different day. Yeah, that's pretty much what's going on.
Same crap, different year. And how am I doing? Well, the weather has been weird. It's been changing it went from 70 to 50. I think my body freaked out just like everyone else because it's that time of the season where you better adapt. And the crazy thing is, some would just say, "Oh, I'm staying home." I was like, "Nope, I am still fighting through it." With the exception of today. No, wait, I'm still working today. So there's no escape.
Oh, dude, we have extremes out here in the Great Lakes region, man. It's wild. The one thing I always enjoyed about the Pacific Northwest is when the seasons changed, it's not necessarily as extreme. You might have a 10-degree dip as you shift from summer into fall, and then as you get deeper into fall, as you get closer to winter. And then obviously it'll be a gradual dip down to cold weather. Here, it's insane, right? Going from a comfortable 60 degrees in spring, and then all of a sudden 2 weeks later it's 90 degrees, and then it's summer. Then it's summer, and then when you get to fall, then it goes from being insanely hot to insanely cold. And you're absolutely right, man. The body just cannot adapt, and especially as I'm getting older, it's like Jesus Christ, it sucks.
It really does. It kind of sucks, but it is what it is. So, but what also stinks more is stuff that John Stanton said, and it makes me go, "Oh boy!" And a lot of some things to cover. Yeah, and before we do, I think I'm gonna need a 25-second break by showing you a message for one of our sponsors.
SeatGeek is a mobile ticketing app for sporting events, concerts, and other events. They make the buying experience easier by the app ranking each ticket from 0 to 10 to see if you are getting a good deal, and you can see exactly where you are sitting. I regularly use that app, and I have had nothing but a fantastic experience with SeatGeek. Use my promo code RoofTopSports to get $20 off of your first purchase. Link to the code, app, and website will be in the description, so take advantage, and thank you.
And yep, if you are enjoying some playoff baseball, save yourself $20 so you can get that $20 meal for a playoff game. And also, if you're into NFL football, save $20 and enjoy some great football games, including the one where the Giants beat up on the Seahawks. Gross.
Yeah, I wasn't going to say it, man. I wasn't going to say it, but you did, so it is what it is. And yeah, man, that's too.
Hey, it's not life or death. It's just the facts. It's just the message.
Yeah, but you know how some sports fans are, though.
Unfortunately,
they hang on every edge or every cliff when the Seahawks play, and when they don't, they want people fired, and it's insane.
It's insane, yeah. But now here's the fun part. John Stanton, Mariners owner, and shout out to Daniel Kramer as he constructed this huge article, and it seemed to have gathered a lot of attention, including Mariners fans, Mariners content creators, and they all made videos about it. So I figured, well, it's my turn to do the same exact thing. And first thing that I said that really caught my attention was the time that Scott Service was fired. Now, granted, I never liked Scott Service. Is he a great person? Sure. Manager? No. And was I fired? Or was I fired? Was I happy when he was fired? Yeah, of course. But then the way it was handled was atrocious. And here's what Stanton had to say when he allowed it to get leaked, and I blame him for it, of course. I have a deep regret that it leaked to the media and that Scott found out from some media source. And that source of frustration for everyone in this building. I'm highly confident it didn't come within this building or from our ownership group, because I know that there was a very small circle of people who were aware of it. And I have a high level of confidence that those people did not say anything. To be blunt, I can't do anything about it. Even if I knew exactly the answer, it happened and it was terribly unfortunate. It expressed, both Jerry and I, that we have expressed our disappointment that it had occurred. Problems I have with that, when you're the owner of Major League Baseball, it is literally your job and Jerry's to make sure that kind of stuff doesn't get leaked until you say it. But the thing is, we may never know how it was said, but Scott says that he found out through social media. So what they should have done, they should have told him right after the game, because it didn't seem like they did tell him right after the game. I think they just said, no press conference for you, just go. But I don't know what was done, but whatever it was just terribly handled regardless of when they said it.
Yeah. Well, I think we all had a hunch that Stanton himself leaked it, and to me, this kind of confirms it. I think you were saying right there that there was a tight group of people, and that he's confident that it didn't leak from anyone in the ownership group. And it's like, come on, man. It's like, yeah, of course, because you're the one that leaked it. You know what I mean? It's like it's the classic tale of going behind somebody's back, but also to their face, smiling. You know what I mean? It's like I thought it was dirty, and I remember after that Dodgers series, there was no press conference, and the team immediately came back to Seattle, and that should have been it, right? Not the next morning where Scott can find out on Twitter that he had been fired, but that night when you get back from Los Angeles, right? I mean, that's the gentlemanly way of doing it, right? Where you pull Scott aside and say, listen, man, things are just not working. We've given you leeway, but due to the results of this year, we're letting you go. And I just wanted to tell you personally, so there's no hard feelings, and that should have been the end of it, right? But you pull back a team back from LA because of a bad series, and then you smile at his face when he gets off the plane, and you're like, well, we'll get him next time. That type of BS. And the next morning, your manager wakes up, gets himself a cup of coffee, picks up his phone, and he's just going through his Twitter feed, and then all of a sudden he sees Ken Rosenthal with a breaking, that he had lost his livelihood. You know what I mean? And it's like, I would, I would probably assume that Jerry knew the night before, just like Stanton knew the night before, right? But they were placing calls to Dan and Edgar to have that put in place, and unfortunately, this is the way that you treat a guy that gave you 9 years of stability. It's shameful. But that being said, it's like how can you not read those quotes from Stanton and not think that he was the one that leaked it?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it reminds me of a few things. Like, well, first off, of course, I was glad that they fired him. Like, it was the right thing to do. But the problem with the way they handled it, I would think that it presents a red flag to the entire league, because now that everyone's going to know that, who is going to want to work for John Stanton because of that? Can you trust that kind of organization? And it kind of reminds me, this is going to be way off topic, but on Jerry Krause, how he handled The Last Dance, how he handled firing Phil Jackson, causing everyone to basically leave. And
but he also told Phil to his face. He brought him into the office and said, regardless of the results, this is going to be your last year. Like, he actually had the wherewithal to say it to his face. Now, granted, that relationship wasn't great either, but I'll tell you why the Mariners' job is going to be attractive, because now, granted, Jerry Dipoto doesn't like paying top dollar for free agents, but John Stanton will pay top dollar for executives. So the money's going to be there for for any prospective GM or president of baseball operations coming in, for anybody to make $4 or $5 million a year for 5 years or whatever the case may be. There's going to be money there.
Yeah, and finishing the whole thing about the Jerry Krause thing, and yeah, it was to his face, but that was like, and at least that was the standard back then. Today's standard is now ghosting people. But
yeah, that's
what happened in the 2000 free agency. The Bulls thought that they were going to get Tracy McGrady and like Tim Duncan on their team, because Jerry Krause was not only banking on a good draft in 99 and I guess 2000, not good draft, but he was banking on getting Tracy McGrady and Tim Duncan, or at least any of those guys. Tracy McGrady actually declined. And then there was an interview with Kevin Garnett asking him if he would play for the Bulls someday. And KG was like, well, if they did MJ dirty like that, then I ain't joining that. So that's the precedent that John Stanton has sent to anyone of the executives that would maybe want to be here. But now that they've heard that that's how they do firing procedures, they're going to be like, no way.
Well, I'll take it one step further, right? Players talk. You just brought up Tracy McGrady and you just brought up Kevin Garnett. Players talk, man. And when you are a part of this baseball team that consistently underachieves because they consistently do not go out and spend money, that gets around the league, and it gets around quickly. So it's going to be interesting to see over these next 5 years, because I have a feeling that Jerry's going to get fired this upcoming year. Like if this team gets off to if he has another off season with the same type of results, and it leads to this team getting off to a poor start in 2025, which is, I would probably have that at 90%. Right now, like if you held a gun to my head and said, what do you think the first month of 2025 is going to be like? I would probably assume that it's going to be a couple games below 500. Jerry's going to get fired, and you're going to have to go out there and replace him. But not only is that going to be difficult, because there's going to be a lot of people out there and says, the juice isn't worth the squeeze. But it's also going to be for players as well too. They're just not going to want to come here because it's toxic. And it's not from the ground up; it's from the owner. It's from the ownership on down, right? And champions are made from the top, right? It starts with the want and desire to compete at a high level, the willingness to go out and spend when you absolutely need to spend without making excuses. And when you treat people as poorly as they treated Scott Service, whether it was fair or not. I mean, Scott's results weren't there, so you can understand the reasoning behind the firing. But that being said, man, find out that way, man. Like, I can't imagine. I mean, I can't imagine going to work or waking up in the morning, getting ready for work, and then opening up social media and finding out that I got replaced at work. Dude, I would be pissed. I literally would call somebody. I would call Jerry and just be like, dude, what the?
Yeah, I wonder if Scott Service said something like, what WTF? And Jerry probably couldn't even answer it.
I hope he did try to call Scott. And that's the thing, is that if Scott is a man, he picks up the phone and says, hey, listen, I'm sorry you found out this way. This is not supposed to how, like, we wanted you to come in, but it got leaked, right? It got leaked. It didn't come from me. But he can't also put his owner on blast either and say, well, it came from John.
Yeah. Well, pretty disastrous, but we got to move on because we got so many other quotes. And man, John Stanton, I must say, he's doing a really good job putting me to work. But the next quote is this. So they were talking about the offensive futilities, and he was being asked about it. And he goes, for whatever reason, Jerry should answer that question. The offensive performance particularly has been disappointing, Stanton said. Captain Obvious. Pointing out to a group at the time, MLB's worst strikeout rate, 27.7%, third lowest OPS, 666, the devil, and fewer runs per game than all three teams, 3.9, was essentially suppressing an all-world starting rotation, obviously. Now, of course, my reaction to that was, well, Stanton, you're the one that that controls the payroll. You're the one that provides the resources, and your last 2 off seasons has proven your inactivity and seems to be lack of desire, at least until it was like that trade deadline. Then you're like, okay, go. But you kind of led up to this. Like, you allowed, or you pretty much made Jerry DePoto make those trades of Eugenio Suarez, Jared Kelnick, not even giving a check to Teoscar Hernandez and have him say no to get a first round pick. You didn't do any of those things. So all of your lack of leadership and I guess lack of desire or just unawareness led up to this point on. And the thing is, you should be answering that question too. Like, you shouldn't just leave it to Jerry to answer that question.
No, 100%. It's horseshit. The deflecting of something that is an obvious answer, right? Like, you are the leader of this franchise, period. And it's like you don't deflect to your subordinates to answer a question that you can easily answer, right? Like, I still believe that the Root Sports storyline of this last offseason affected payroll. Payroll still stayed the same. That I firmly believe that resources were there to keep the entire team intact and still be able to add. Like, I personally believe that was Jerry DePoto, and not the payroll restrictions. But that being said, you're absolutely right. You hit it right on the head. It's like, you're the one that sets the budget every single year. You're the one that provides the resources, and you also work hand in hand with Jerry DePoto building this team. I don't think a lot of people understand that Jerry DePoto does have the autonomy to build it, but those two talk constantly about players and their fit and their roles within the team, right? So it's not like it's not like John Stanton is unaware of what's going on in his own franchise. That's not the case at all. Like, he has the full wherewithal to answer that question. He just didn't want to. No. That's the terrible part about it. Like when you're looking for accountability, he's nowhere to be found. Like, to me, that is the the end all to be all right there. Like, the owner isn't going to sit there and say, you know what, this is on me. You know what I mean? Like, we had a budget and we thought we were going to be able to, to improve. It didn't improve, and that's on me. And you're not gonna leave your president of baseball operations just hanging in the breeze, because that's to me, that's what he did right there by non-answering and putting it all on Jerry. Right? It gives him the convenient excuse for when he eventually fires him. That's what that was.
Yeah, exactly. Like, no accountability. And granted, yes, we could also say Jerry is also not, he's just as bad too, but also Stanton is also not doing his job either. Like, as an owner, he should be taking that kind of responsibility, but of course he won't. He's doing the same exact thing as Howard Lincoln did with his 2002 World Series comment, where goal is not to win a World Series, goal is to field a competitive team year after year. But at least at this point with Howard Lincoln, at least he gave an answer to something. It's just that
at least
it was just
honest.
A bad answer. Yeah, at least he was honest.
He's honest.
I think Stanton is he's just a liar. He just lies about everything.
Like, I truly believe that he wants to win, but I think that he also is in a position where, as a minority owner with Nintendo, he saw exactly how to run a baseball franchise the way that he feels that it is supposed to be run. And so that's just the way he runs it. And that is exactly the way that Howard Lincoln, framed it back in the day, which is like, yeah, we want to field a competitive team every year because it drives our bottom line. And if they get in, great, great. But if not, that's cool too, because 3 million fans will come through the turnstiles every single year, and we're going to be profitable to the tune of like 20% every single year.
Pretty much so, yeah.
I do believe that he wants to win. I just believe that he doesn't want to pay the cost of what it takes to win. Every single year, the cost of winning goes up, right? And he just does not want to pay the premium of what it will take. And I still believe that when you look at the Mariners, they're in the corner of a country. There is no competition. Other baseball teams in his region that he has to compete with, right? The nearest baseball team is to the south in the Bay Area, and then of course all the way to the east in Colorado. So it's like, dude, he's got no competition. Like he's got that entire Northwest corridor on lock, and that team prints money. Like if they really wanted to, they can go toe to toe with the Los Angeles Dodgers in spending. They just don't. They just choose not to.
And I do think that the next set of quotes kind of confirm that they should be just as competitive as like the Dodgers and the Yankees and other big teams, the Astros, Rangers. But here it is. We're roughly they're asking about market size, and Stanton said, we're roughly the 15th largest market in baseball. Stanton said, we're pretty much the smack dab in the middle in terms of size of market. And that means we're about average in our ability to generate revenue. Oof. Do things.
Yeah.
I think to me, the word that we use is a lot, and our objective to have a sustainable franchise over a long period of time. Another issue with that, he was just looking at Seattle's market alone, but he's not paying attention to the fact that he has a fan base not only in Washington State alone, which he forgot about that. What about Oregon, Portland? Yeah. They love the Mariners. Idaho, they love the Mariners. I'm pretty sure that's where you can watch Major League Baseball. They're the two. And I think even Montana gets blacked out too, because they're still forcing to get Root Sports. So from what I heard, I saw a tweet, was an excellent point. If you combined all those markets together, they could easily be like top 5. Like they would actually add up to top 5. So to say that we're just 15th or middle of the pack, which is dishonest. And if we were just purely 15th for whatever silly reason, like, then we wouldn't have like the Amazons, or at least had Boeing for a long time, all those tech companies. So with all those tech companies, that 15th should mean nothing. Like we should be acting like we're top 10.
Well, you used the word liar earlier, and in reference to John Stanton. And I will say that he was being 100% disingenuous with those quotes, because you brought up the fact that they're smack dab right at 15th, and it's like, dude, every single year the city of Seattle grows, right? If Seattle was a mid-market team, they wouldn't be tech hubs to Amazon, Google, you know what I mean? Like Facebook and Twitter wouldn't have offices in Seattle. Amazon wouldn't continue to build sprawling complexes, and Google wouldn't own South Lake Union. You know what I mean? It's like, I think what United and Delta and Alaska have airline hubs in Seattle. It's like, come on, man. It's Seattle is rapidly growing to a point where, like, I remember growing up in Issaquah, and I remember it being just this small little rinky-dink I-90 town, like 30 minutes east of Seattle. And now when you go there, it is crammed. You know what I mean? Like they built up on the plateau, they built up on, Tiger and Cougar Mountain. Like the entire downtown area is radically different than it was 15 years ago. And that's because Microsoft expanded. That's because that's the population keeps expanding. And so when that happens, your market share your market changes. And you brought up Portland. Absolutely. That's the thing. It's like Seattle, the Mariners have control in Portland. They have control in Spokane. They have control of Boise, Western Montana, even in Vancouver, BC. They have, the Mariners are showed up there. So it's like they have multiple markets without any competition for baseball dollar, right? On top of the fact that their sponsorship revenue continues to grow. You know what I mean? So it's like this idea that they're like this mid-market team with like only a certain ability to like, dude, come on, man. Like tell that to somebody else that doesn't, critically think for themselves. It's like as a Mariner fan who understands the business side of baseball, it insults my intelligence, because it's like, dude, come on, man.
Yeah, come on, man. And there's two guys that say, come on, man. Man. Yeah, Keyshawn Johnson says, come on, man.
Come on,
all right.
Man.
And now
it's
next
ridiculous, man. It's ridiculous.
It is.
It's like, dude, the Mariners essentially print money. They do. And it's like, if that was the case, Jerry Dipoto doesn't get raises every single season, and if that is the case, their player development and their analytics department doesn't grow every single year, and it does. That's the reality. It's like that's the things that never get reported, but every single year, their player development and their analytics department absolutely balloons every year.
And what about this? They had the freaking money to build a freaking baseball academy in the Dominican Republic, and that certainly wasn't cheap either.
Right?
We can just go on and on about it, but the next quote, Stanton said this for 2025. What is his plan? Do you plan to increase payroll? Yes, we plan to increase payroll from 2024, but Dipoto indicated that most of the uptick will be rooted via in-house raises. Shocker. A sizable group of players is either entering salary arbitration for the first time, going through the process again, and all who reach the bargaining table with tangible statistics to make compelling case to earn more money than they did in 2024. The group includes Cal Raleigh, George Kirby, Logan Gilbert, Randy Arozarena, and maybe a little bit more. And of course, this doesn't surprise me because actually, the one thing I will give it credit, at least it looks like they're not going to trade any of the core because there was that speculation in August. So
sure.
I will give it credit that he's at least willing to, I guess, stand pat until a trade happens on any of those guys. I'll say, okay, fine. Good. I'll give you that. But the problem of course, we're basically just going to be stuck. Like, it seems that we're not going to get the Juan Sotos. They're not going to get Pete Alonso. They're not even going to get Eugenio Suarez, even if Arizona declines that option, which they'd be insane if they decline that option.
Right.
What about getting the likes of even Christian Walker, Blake Snell, who may opt out? What about Cody Bellinger, who may opt out, whether he does or not? Or even a broken who just got back, Robbie Ray. They might not even do that. So that's the concern I have. And the farm system is actually getting thinner because one, almost only like 2 players on that offense will be MLB ready. Harry Ford and Cole Young by 25. But like Laz Montez, Cole Emerson, they are still at least a couple years away. And the pitching prospect doesn't seem to be promising because all it was like Logan Evans. That's it.
Yeah,
and Emerson
graduated. They graduated a bulk of their pitching prospects already.
Yeah, and Emerson Hancock, we already saw at most of what he can do because his velocity is just, unfortunately, it's just gone. And it's really sad to see that. But that's the problem.
It's not consistent,
Like, we can't bank on the young players anymore because they've all graduated and some are just years away. And don't forget Felmin Celestine, he has injury problems now all of a sudden.
Right.
And then maybe we won't get anyone in free agency. So there's a lot of concerns based on that quote.
My question is, how much is payroll going up? Is it going to be the token 4% as it's been the last 3 years? Is it going to be 10%? How much is it going up? That's my first question. But also, based on the comments of a lot of that's going to go to in-house raises. But what happens if Cal Raleigh, Logan Gilbert, and George Kirby refuse an extension? What then? What's your pivot move? Is it going to be trades? Right? Is it going to be the offseason going into 2022 when you traded for a Eugenio Suarez and a Jesse Winker and Adam Frazier and signed Robbie Ray? Is it going to be that type of impact where you send a direct message to your fan base like you're going for it? Or is it going to be like 2023 when you let Mitch Haniger and Carlos Santana walk and then you replaced it with trash? Or is it going to be this offseason where you traded everybody because you just wanted to cut down on strikeouts and you made it even worse? Right. So, I mean, it's, my question is this, what's your plan B if those guys do not, if those guys don't accept an extension? Because we already heard that I think it was Logan Gilbert last offseason didn't want an extension, didn't want to sign an extension. You know what I mean? So it's like, what happens? What makes you think that a year ahead that those guys are ready to sign big dollar extensions unless you grossly overpay them? You know what I mean? What's the plan? Is it are you going to be active? And then if you're going to be active, is it going to be tier A free agents? Is it going to be tier B free agents? Like, that's the one thing. It's like you can sit there and say, yeah, payroll's going up and all that good stuff, but you're not telling us what the plan is. And you alluded to the farm system. It's like, those are going to be like if it's going to be if it's going to be trades, then those are the trade chips. And the things that you were unable to do this trading deadline by parting with some key minor league free agents in order to bring in some impact. Like, in order to do that this offseason, you're going to have to do that. You're going to have to trade a Cole Young, or you're going to have to trade a Felding Celestine or a Laz Montez. You're going to have to bite that bullet in order to radically improve this team, because the way that I look at this right now is there's massive holes on this roster. In right field, at first base, at third base, maybe even shortstop, and second base. It's like, dude, it's like you almost have to rebuild your entire infield. How is that going to happen? And how much resources are going to be available?
It's very unclear at this point. I mean, to be honest with you, I think we all know that anyway, but yeah, there's not really much hope, especially with what John Stanton said. In-house.
And do you trust Jerry DePota to do it?
No.
Where he's, where he's had multiple bites at the apple and has only been able to produce one playoff appearance.
Absolutely not. And that's where, and we'll get into all of that later, but still got some quotes to go over. And John Stanton, and he was, with this quote, they were basically saying, like, a lot of fans were feeling gaslit by this, but here it is. I love this place. I am present. I am here. I care deeply about this. I am disappointed as any fan we have that this team hasn't made the playoffs in 2 years. Obviously, it didn't sound like that. I believe we're making progress. Okay? I can certainly understand why fans are frustrated when they hear me say that, but I believe we are back on track to have a team that consistently wins over a long... I can't even finish that, but a long period of time. Other problems. Progress? Last 2 years, they have regressed. Like, if the 2022 Mariners were playing the 2024 Mariners, the 22 team would humiliate them. Or even the 23 team would humiliate them really badly. Or if you at least copied and pasted, that's the thing. If the team stood pat in 23, did the bare minimum, gave Teoscar a qualifying offering and got him to say yes, you keep everyone, that team wins the division, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure they win the division, especially with an unstoppable bullpen. Now, granted, if Matt Brash was healthy, of course.
But remember, Scott Service is the one that's leading this team through the first 6 months of for the first 4 months of the season.
Okay, fine. Okay.
Right. Because now, if it was Dan Wilson leading Jared Kelnick and Teoscar Hernandez and Suarez and all those guys from the start of the season, I would probably agree with you.
All right, yeah. Besides the point also, but I mean, if he really loved this place, if he really cared, don't you think he would have provided like the resource for Jerry DePota? Now, granted, yes, he's a bad GM, whatever, or president, whatever. And wouldn't he have not allowed scums like Kevin Mather to say stupid things on the Bellevue Rotary Club if he really cared? And if he really, really cared, wouldn't he at least have kept the teams intact in the last 2 years? Because this whole thing feels exactly like post 95. 22 was the 95. And then what they do after that? They slowly declined the team, just like what post 95 thing did, which unfortunately, 95, the post 95 itself gets all the attention it gets. Post 95, if you ask someone about, they'll just give you really big eyeballs. That's it.
The only difference is they didn't trade Julio Rodriguez to the Yankees post 2022. You know what I mean? Like, that was not, they didn't give the Yankees the keys to a dynasty post 2022 like they did post 95. But here's the thing, John. Fuck off, man. Like, you know, that's really what it comes down to, because it's like you can't sit there and say, I'm so disappointed. It's like, dude, you literally just put your own president of baseball operations on blast by refusing to back him up with comments of like, the disappointing offense. You refuse to hold it accountable. And we're supposed to believe that you're absolutely upset when, I would probably assume when the attendance figures come out for the season that 2.5 million fans came through. You're not disappointed at all. You're happy. Like you're incredibly happy because people paid your ridiculous ticket prices and parked in your ridiculously expensive parking garage and then bought your ridiculous expensive merchandise and your concessions. It's like, dude, cut the crap. You know what I mean? Like literally, let's just cut all the BS aside. It's like, the only reason why you're disappointed that they didn't make the playoffs is you didn't get to clock your fans dollars for playoff prices. Like that's the disappointing aspect of this for John Stanton, is that he didn't get 5 more playoff games, where he can just solidify his nut for the season. It's like, dude, come on, man. Like, I don't want to hear it. It's if that was the case, if you're very disappointed, you not only fire Scott Service, but you fire Jerry DiPoto, and you go out there and actually bring in, a successful, proven winner as an executive. You go out there and you try to get Dave Dombrowski, or you go out there and you try to get Theo Epstein to come in and run this ship. You know what I mean? Who knows what it's like to win with a budget, right? Like people forget that, when Epstein was in Boston, you didn't have the Yankees budget, he was working within a budget and he made it work. And he was able to erase the 3-0, 2004 ALCS lead to the Yankees and get to a World Series and win it. He won multiple World Series. So there's guys out there that know how to win within a budget and who understand talent evaluation and know how to get things done. If you were disappointed, you wouldn't continue to roll with Jerry DiPoto. Like, I don't want to hear disappointment because you're not disappointed. I can understand why fans feel like they're gaslit because 100% they're gaslit. There's no other way around it.
He's trying to make us feel stupid, but
no,
a lot of Mariner fans.
No, he wants us to feel like he's there and he's upset that the results didn't translate into wins and all the. It's like, no, dude, like you're so far removed emotionally. The only thing that you care about is the revenue that comes in, so your shareholders are happy. Like that is the end goal right there, right? Like that is like and again, like because they didn't make the playoffs and you don't get multiple bites out of the apple. That is the disappointment. That's it right there.
So yeah, and here's the thing. We get it. In a world of business, you have to make money. You have to make profits. I totally get it. I get it. But when you're in a stage, when you have expectations on you, whether it's the fans or the players or even your upper management, there is still an expectation where you got to spend the money. Like, you can't, like in business, it's important to make a profit 100%, because if you're not making a profit, you go out of business. But it's also not good business practice in a PR perspective to just go cheap and take shortcuts. And that's what the Mariners have been doing in the last 2 years, is taking shortcuts, which they have been doing. But yet it has not worked out, which proves that you got to spend just a little bit of more money. And the thing is, most of us fans, we're not even asking. I mean, maybe you're asking for the Juan Sotos, but not everyone is asking for a Juan Soto. We're not asking for like 10-year contracts on every single position player and pitcher. We're asking for at least the mid-level to at least the borderline all-star types that were like maybe flirting with the all-star game. We're asking for those kind of players.
I think everybody is asking for a Corey Seager or a Juan Soto. I think at this point, Mariner fans are definitely asking for impact at every single position. I'll say this, man. There's a reason why they say you can't make money unless you spend money. And that's the problem with the American sports system, because when you're in a closed league, there's no incentive to spend. And especially when you consider that, the NFL, Major League Baseball, has billion-dollar television contracts, and they also have local deals, and they have all these sponsorship money. Like these teams make millions of dollars per year, where they don't need 2 to 3 million fans through the year, through the turnstiles every year for them to be profitable. Like those days are long gone, right? Like just off of their national TV deals alone, they're able to be profitable. It depends on, it all depends on the nature of the gap of profitability, depends on the fans that come in. But that being said, in baseball, there's also profit sharing. You know what I mean? Like the funny thing is, like when I'll give you a good example. Like when John Fisher says that he's broke and the A's are broke, he's absolutely lying to you, because there's no way that in Major League Baseball that a team can be that broke when he's making at least $150 million a year just off the national television deal alone. And he's also a profit sharing team as well too. And that's to the tune of like $40 million a year just in profit sharing, which he pockets. Like that doesn't go into the team. Like, the Mariners are a team that are insanely wealthy, and there is no incentive for them to spend. The crazy thing is, like, if you remember the Yankees back in the day, George Steinbrenner spent crazy sums of money, but it paid off and they won. And that's, there's also another saying that says winning cures everything. And that's what he believed in. George Steinbrenner believed in it to the point where he was able to win multiple World Series, spending insane amounts of money. But when you do that, everybody's attracted to winners. And the Yankees' valuation skyrocketed to, at that point in time, it was well over $2 billion in an age where billion-dollar franchises weren't a thing. And that's the reality of Major League Baseball, specifically the Seattle Mariners, where it is about franchise valuation for John Stanton. Understand, he's like, what, 77 now? 75, 76, somewhere around there? He's an old dude. He's not going to be around forever. But when he sells the team, he's going to walk away with $2 to $4 billion. That's
69 years old.
69 years old. Okay, yeah. So he's getting there. He's not going to be around forever. And that's the name of the game. It's not about spending money and winning championships if every single year your franchise is valuable and if every single year it goes up in valuation. That's what sporting fans in this country don't seem to understand. It's like there is no reason for them to spend money when every single year they're profitable. That's it. You know what I mean? So it's unfortunate because the fans are the ones that have to suffer. We're the only team to never appear in a World Series. And to be honest with you, John Stanton doesn't give a shit. He just does not care, because every single year he's profitable. And it's every single year to the day that he sells the team, his valuation of his franchise continues to go up. And when he sells it, he's going to be laughing all the way to the bank. This is an asset.
It really is. And I actually looked up on Forbes on between the Yankees and the Mariners. Since starting in 2021 and 2022, actually, let's compare the 2022 years. So 2022, here's the profits. Mariners made $71 million. And I'm looking at operating income, and you can verify with me if that is the correct way to look at profit.
Sure.
$71 million in operating income or profit. $86 million in 2023 because of the 2022 hype. Still $76 million even with a struggling year. And here's the Yankees. Negative $40 million. Then 16 and 23 and 2.1. Now, why am I even saying this? It proves that now, of course, Yankees spend a crap ton of money. But here's the thing. Do the Steinbrenners care about making money with the Yankees? Yes, sure, but they also care about winning, and they're willing to do everything they can to put together a winner. And I do expect them to do everything they can to put together to get the money for Juan Soto. That's what I expect them. So the thing is, one has passion, the other does not.
Yeah, and I think that says it all, right? After all operating costs are met, the Mariners turn in insane profit. The crazy thing is, with the Yankees, if the Steinbrenners ever sell it, which I highly doubt how Steinbrenner will ever sell the Yankees. But if for whatever reason they do, they're walking away with like $10 to $15 billion. You know what I mean? Like it's operating in the plus is not an issue for them, because they understand that regardless of whether they're making money or losing money on a year-to-year basis, their franchise valuation continues to roll high because they're the Yankees and they have 27 championships to their franchise history. The Mariners, meanwhile, I think they're like at 1.5 billion. I think their franchise valuation 2.2 for a team that has never even sniffed a World Series. They're still at 2.2, and it just shows you how well ran that they are. They're a team that just likes to run on player development. That's it. And it's interesting, right? Because the team is valued at $2.2 billion. And, for them to sit there and say that they're just like some blasé middle market team, it's ridiculous, right? Because the numbers tell you a completely different story. It's like, what are you talking about? Like, if you wanted to go pay Juan Soto a 10-year, $650 million deal, you could easily do that and not even bat an eyelash.
It is a fair point to throw it out. And now we are going to move on to the final segment, which is the Mariners to-do list, or what the Mariners shall do. But before we do, I got to show you a word from our sponsor, SoFi Bank.
SoFi is an online bank and a personal financing company offering financial diverse products. They hold the naming rights to the home of the Los Angeles Rams and the Los Angeles Chargers, named SoFi Stadium. They offer amazing checking and savings accounts where you can get up to 4.6% on savings accounts. There are no monthly fees to maintain the accounts, and they have over 55,000 no-fee ATMs around the United States. You even have access to a budgeting program, stock trading, and insurance programs. Join SoFi and get $25 for joining and/or $25 for opening a stock trading account. Links are available in the description. And thank you. And lastly, I am not a financial advisor, so either find a professional financial advisor or go with your own gut.
Yeah, I had to do that disclaimer because you just never know.
You're a financial advisor. What are you talking about? You're
not licensed or whatever they want.
Nah, I'm just messing with you. I'm messing.
All right. To the Mariners to do, we'll go through each position and we'll just go from there. But the first thing I want the Mariners to do, the first thing I need them to do, and John Stan, I hope you're hearing this, which you're not. Please get rid of Jerry Dipoto, because I don't want to see another off season like exactly what you did in the last 2 years. There's just no point. There's just going to be no hope. And like, here's a cycle. They're going to make some insanely bad trade, and it's going to set really bad PR and a bad precedent and a really bad impression for 2025. And then at the 11th hour, Jerry Dipoto is going to make some really ridiculous, marketable, attractive trades based on the name of the back of the jersey to get everyone hyped up. And in that first month or so, they're still going to be dragging just below 500. I think that's pointless. I think they should just clean the slate, give Dan Wilson another boss to work with, or at least bring a new GM that has his own manager of personnel and go from there. But will they do that? Nah. But I think it's for Jerry, I think it's time to go. And when I heard that news that they were going to keep Jerry, I was like, oh no. And they haven't even promised him like any kind of extension either. They just said, you just have one more year. We don't know yet.
And that's the biggest problem, right? Because he's going to be he's a lame duck GM president, right? So, and that's the biggest problem. And I think you hit it right on the head, because he knows he's coming into a year where he could easily be replaced. So he's probably going to have an insane offseason where you're absolutely right. He's going to make a trade or two based on the back of the jersey for a name that probably was awesome 5 years ago. This last year where he brought in Polanco and he brought back Haniger. And he brought in some guys that were great 5 years ago. Very good 5 years ago. And 5 years ago, I wish we would have had, but fast forward, they're barely hanging on. The biggest problem with this offseason is the free agent market is not great, man. It's not. So as far as I'm concerned, man, you can put that to the side. And the only way that this team is going to improve is going to be through trade. So now it's an issue of identifying teams that are willing to either take on salary, because we have some guys that are making some money that are absolutely terrible, and you're gonna try to get those off your books, or you're gonna have to trade the minor league pieces in order to get something done. Like this is not gonna work out well for Jerry Dipoto, unless he brings in a Pete Alonso or Juan Soto. But the other thing that needs to be said is that Jerry Dipoto sacrificed defense for offense last year, and it failed. And now we have a team that does not defend well at all in a ballpark that absolutely requires very good defense. And so now he's got to figure that out as well too. Like you're going to trade for a guy who can hit, but can you also, is he a well-rounded player? And then what's the price for a well-rounded player, right? So I don't really have a lot of hope for this offseason. I gotta be perfectly honest with you.
I don't think anybody should, not at all. And looking at the free agent market, the ones that stick out the most: Christian Walker, Pete Alonso, Carlos Santana, Paul Goldschmidt, Justin Turner, if you want to re-sign him. That's the first baseman. That they are the ones that stick out the most. Second baseman, Gleyber Torres, probably going to be a former Yankee. Adam Frazier with a team option.
I wouldn't mind Gleyber Torres.
Shortstop, we've got Ha-Sung Kim, Anderson, Willie Adames is another guy that sticks out. 8 WAR, by the way.
I hate to say it, JP Crawford's going to be back.
Third baseman, Alex Bregman, Eugenio Suarez if he doesn't take the option, JD Davis. Outfield, we got Tyler O'Neill, Jurickson Profar. I mean, yeah, you're saying that the free agent market is not attractive, but if it's attractive, then we can say that then maybe it's an undervalued free agency where the Mariners can take advantage. But will they do it? Nope. They probably.
I would be okay if they traded for a first baseman, signed Alex Bregman, and brought in Tyler O'Neill to play right field. Right. So if you're talking, you're keeping a Rosarena around to play left field, and then bringing in Tyler O'Neill to play right. And then you brought in Bregman to play third base. You brought in Gleyber Torres to play second base. I'd be okay with even if they gave it to Ty Locklear, first base to Locklear, I'd be okay with that.
Yeah, which is why we're going to get into the positional things, and we're just going to say on the offensive side, I think bullpen and pitching could be said some other time. Catcher, we're going to say Cal Raleigh. Obviously, that's a lock unless the Mariners trade him for whatever reason. But until then, I can see Cal.
And I can see that too. If they traded
that's
Cal,
the scary part, yeah.
Yeah, I can see it.
But yeah, Cal Raleigh. Until then, I'd say he's a lock. He has that position locked down. And you can say, fine, Mitch Garver, because he has the option. No, he doesn't have the option. He has one more year until the option, but unfortunately, I hate to say it, you might as well just make him a backup catcher because it's kind of a waste of time to go for another Sebi Savala.
I would look to trade Mitch Garver. I think it's like the same thing that they did with Jesse Winker. After one season, they recognized that it was not a good fit, and they found a dance partner in the trade market, and that should be something that they should do with Mitch Garver. He absolutely had a disastrous season to the point where fans were getting at him, sending death threats. It's as much as I like Garver, you can't have your backup catcher making $12 million. It just that just does not play. So that money should be used elsewhere on the time, and so Mitch Garver has to be a trade candidate. And I'm sure there's going to be teams that are going to be willing to take on a team-friendly deal. Let's understand he's only making $12 million. It's not like he's making 25, so it's not going to be hard to move off.
There'll probably be a team that has a lot of plate protection that would go for the likes of Mitch Garver.
Yeah,
but yeah, great points. But I think if a trade for Mitch Garver, it would include one of our at least mid-tier prospects. So that's something I would watch out on.
Potentially.
And now first baseman, we've got Luke Raley, okay, but I think he's proven that he's a platoon guy. and Justin Turner if they keep him. But you think that, I think we talked about it before. You do think that Mariners can do better than settling for giving Justin Turner one more year.
Yeah, I don't like the idea of bringing back a 40-year-old player. And when you bring him back, he's going to be what, your DH versus lefties. So essentially, you're bringing him back to be a mascot. Okay.
Might as well just have him. Might as well convince him to retire and just make him like a bench coach.
Well, I mean, I would say that, okay, fine. If he wants to play, you have to define his role, and he's not going to be making a lot of money. You're going to sign him to a 1-year, $2 million deal. And like his role is going to be defined. Like you're going to be the DH or first baseman against left-handed pitching. That's it. That is your role. But I still think the Mariners could do a lot better than a 40-year-old Justin Turner. I like the idea of Luke Raley being a super platoon, splitting between the outfield, first base, and DH versus righties. I think that you can easily find Raley a spot on the field most days of the week, and I think that is a rule that's going to fit Raley nice because you can play him versus the matchups. And I do believe that Raley has a spot on this team, and he should be around for 2025. Do I want them to hand him an everyday spot? Not at first base because you can do a lot better, but somewhere in the outfield. Even then, like if you told me that we would have a guy like Tyler O'Neill, who's a 25-80 guy playing right field, I'd rather have that. But that's a good
point, especially like with Pete Alonso and Christian Walker, Carlos. I know, but knowing that those guys are available, if at least Mariners had good ownership, they would have been willing to upgrade on Luke Raley.
First base is going to be either filled by trade or they're going to hand it to Tyler Locklear. Which he also should not be handed that job either. I'm not ready to even do that. And second base, we've got, well, I think it's empty because unless we know for sure that they're going to give Polanco that option, I doubt that they're going to give him that option. So I think second base clearly has a void. The only thing that occupies it only player that would occupy it is possibly a Dylan Moore or Ryan Bliss or Josh Rojas. Say no to all three. Yep. Say no to all three as everyday players. That cannot happen.
Nope, you got to go for either the Gleyber Torres or whoever.
Yeah, so if 2025 opening day rolls around and one of those three is your everyday second baseman, something went horribly wrong in the offseason. And that also should be grounds for dismissal for Jerry Dipoto. It's either Gleyber Torres in free agency. You might be able to get on a couple-year deal for low money. I don't think he's going to command the $15+ million. Maybe you splash and bring in Willy Adames and you move him to second base. That's also that also could be an option, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's a 1-year deal type of guy, or maybe they trade for another second baseman. But how many times are you going to trade for a second baseman hoping something sticks before you actually have to realize and you're going to have to go out there and trade for somebody who's actually in his prime producing, right? Dude, I've said this so many times. I really wish they would have gotten Luis Arias when they had the opportunity to get him from Minnesota. That would have solved all their problems.
Yeah, that probably would have. And now we're going to shortstop, and a lot of people are saying, JP Crawford he did not. Not only did he have a down year, he had an atrocious year where 2022 JP Crawford is laughing at him right now. They got to do something about JP because one, he's eating up the payroll, and two, he's just gone. Like it's just gone. And with the shortstop market with Willy Adames, I mean, they should give it a chance to try to go for him, and of course, see if Cole Young can at least gun for his job because JP Crawford should know his job security is not safe at all. Like he should have known that in 2022 with the likes of Felmin Celestine being signed on. Then they drafted Cole Emerson in 23. And now Cole Young is kind of racing up the minor league system. I would say shortstop should not be safe. It should not be handed to JP Crawford day one. He should have to fight. He should have to fight for it this time.
Well, to say that he's eating up the payroll, Well, he's only making 10 million, so it's not like he's like drastically eating up the payroll. But the interesting thing was that he had 2 straight seasons of extremes, right? In 2023, he had a career year. Like it was on the extreme high end of production, and then he followed it up with the extreme career worst year in terms of lack of production. And so now you're just kind of hoping that 2022, that happy medium is regained in 2025. But I will say that you're absolutely right. It should be open. It should 100% be open for competition. And if you're not going to go out there and bring in Willie Adames, or you're going to go out there and trade for another shortstop, then Cole Young should come into camp, and that should be an open competition, because at the very least, it's going to make JP work that much harder, knowing that it's not safe. You know what I mean? Competition is good for everyone involved, and that includes JP Crawford. After the type of year that he had, like the idea that you're going to come into spring training spreading around knowing that your position is locked down, that would be absolutely insane to have that type of attitude, right? Where, I would be, here's the strange thing, right? Like if that were to happen and Cole Young comes into camp and he's competing for that starting job and he has a better spring, imagine that. Imagine if he absolutely night and day has a better spring than JP Crawford. Those decisions that Dan Wilson is going to have to make, and does he do it? Does he give him that spot? You know what I mean?
Remains to be seen, but we still have a few months away to worry about that. And now for third base. Now it's bad. Like Josh Rojas.
Yeah, it's bad.
And like Dylan Moore, maybe Polanco once. I don't even know if they even did that.
They didn't.
It was atrocious, and we could have used Eugenio Suarez throughout that season. We really could. We could have used 2023 Eugenio Suarez when he was having a quote down year and a career high in strikeouts. Still could have used that. And for the market,
we could have used a cheap Matt Chapman, the guy who eventually signed a below market deal with the Giants. We could have had that.
Could have, and then we were just left with Josh Rojas, who was occasionally there.
Good.
Yeah,
early, like in the first half of the season, he was okay.
Honestly, he probably feels that he's probably be the next. He probably fills that Dylan Moore kind of position. You're just a utility player, but that's really about it, and a platoon player, unfortunately. So I think that would be a better role for him, because that means less pressure on Rojas, because Rojas just cannot take a full-time role. Now, can he take a part-time role? Oh yeah, of course. Why not?
Sure. Yeah, where he's playing twice a week. Yeah, of course. You know what I mean?
For sure.
For sure. And he does have like flexibility to play multiple positions. He can play He can play in the outfield in a pinch if you need him. He can play third. He can play second. So he gives you that flexibility. But as an everyday player, he just proved that he can't do it every day, and he can't do it for long stretches and be productive over long stretches. So this is going to be another area of improvement. And, it's not easily as just, okay, go spend money on free agency, because I don't think the free agent third base market is going to be there. But also think of this, like, do you want Eugenio Suarez back? Let's say Arizona doesn't pick up the option after a great second half that he had, right? Because the reason why you got rid of him was because, he's, Jerry Dipoto thought that he was on the decline after 2023, right? Of course, he proved him wrong, but now he's one more year older. You know what I mean? Like, do you want to bring him back? It's like, I don't necessarily think so. But that being said, it's like, who's readily available to be able to come and step right into that position? Like right off the top of your head, like who do you think is ready available to come in and play that position?
On the Mariners or free agency?
Free agency.
Alex Bregman is also an option.
Yeah. Bregman.
But the thing is, Mariners are the thing. Are they going to pay him? But let's say if money didn't matter, Alex Bregman would be a great addition, because 100%. Not only is he a great player, but he also knows that Houston team, and he can give you advice on how to beat them. Same reason why I wanted Carlos Correa.
He's in his prime. Bregman is in his prime, and you can theoretically get him on a 3-year deal. Like, it's not going to be It's not going to be a long-term deal where it's going to financially hit you. So like, Bregman actually would be a very good signing for the Mariners. That makes a tremendous amount of sense.
But unfortunately, it may not happen. And now left field, center field, and right field. Now we can leave us up to debate whether it is filled or not filled, or we could do better. Left field, Randy Arozarena. How are you feeling?
I think he's going to be back next year. I think in the Dan Wilson offense, he was vastly better than the
Scott Service.
And I think that the Mariners are going to need that power element. The one thing that they lack right now is the contact, which is where a Bregman comes into play. And depending on the second baseman you bring in, if it's Gleyber Torres, you're going to get contact and a little power. But think of the market right now and what a Randy Arozarena would get on the open market versus what he's being paid for right now versus what he's going to end up getting in arbitration. It's incredibly team friendly, and I don't see any reason why you would want to get rid of a guy like Randy Arozarena right now, at least. Because who are you going to bring in that's going to be better?
Left field would be Tyler O'Neill, Jurickson Profar, but the thing is they're up in their age, so at least at this point, right, you got to work with Arozarena. I think he's also up into the 30s. I can check right now, but he's still going to be cheaper than what O'Neill and was going to be worth.
I still think you bring in Tyler O'Neill to play right field. That would be excellent. Or swap him and have Arozarena play right field.
He's 29 years old.
Yeah, but the reality is, it's like it makes sense to keep him around. The question is, are they bringing Edgar back?
That's going to be the question. I think that's going to be one of the most important offseason moves is somehow convince Edgar Martinez to be back.
But also, and then keeping that continuity between him and Julio is going to be important as well too. I just think that it makes tremendous amount of sense to keep Arozarena back because you're going to need that pop. But one of the things that you're going to need is also a little bit more lineup protection as well too. But that also starts and ends with Julio Rodriguez.
Which in center field, I assume that he has that lockdown because it's big contract, franchise player, flashy boy. And now we're just going to go to right field. Victor Robles. Now, despite the season he had when the Mariners brought him in, yes, he had a little bit of a decline until Dan Wilson came in and really fixed his bat along with Edgar Martinez. Should his job be safe for right field, or do you think the Mariners can still do better?
I think Victor Robles should be the fourth outfielder on this team. That's not to say that he is not going to play a lot. I think he could, especially there's going to be at least 3 times in a week, 2 times in a week that you're going to see a lefty, so he's going to play. But then there's also going to be matchups versus right-handed pitchers where he's going to play versus a guy like Tyler O'Neill, who I think they should bring in to play right field. But that being said, Victor Robles still has a very good, a very good spot and a very good role in this team. But every day, where I'll give him, I'll tip my cap to him because he had a very good when he was picked up off the scrap heap. He made the most of his Mariner time, got that extension. Good for you. But that being said, it's like, can you trust Victor Robles to be an everyday player? Where his history says no. But, he had a nice 4 months with the Mariners. Great. You made the most of it. I'm happy for you. You got your extension, but this team has to do better. Do better.
And can he mentally handle the expectations that will be given to him? Because at least last season, it was like nothing to lose. We didn't really have much expectations. Right. But then next year, that bar is going to go up, and you're going to be expected to compete just as well as Randy Arozarena and Julio Rodriguez. And
he dealt with injury issues. He missed time with the hip issue for certain stretches in the second half where we absolutely had nobody in the lineup that you can turn to. And the only guy that was hitting was Victor Robles, but he was out dealing with the hip injury. He was playing through it. He was good. He wasn't good. And it was like, that's, you need a guy who's going to be able to be in there day in and day out and producing. But I think that if you manage his time, he's going to be there all season. And I think he's going to be productive, but as an everyday player, probably not.
Yeah, exactly. Which is what, looking at the free agent market for right field, Juan Soto, Teoscar Hernandez, which I don't expect him to re-sign with the Mariners.
Maybe,
So
maybe. It depends, right? He just went down. He went down to LA on a 1-year deal, and he bet on himself. And so I would probably assume he's going to get a multi-year deal. And I would probably assume that the bar is going to be set at 25 million. But that's the thing. It's if you're looking for a free agent stick. Now, again, I already mentioned that defense has to be a part of this equation, right? So if you're doing it for pure offensive issues, you know, are you like, that's the thing. Are you willing to pay 65 million for Soto or the 25 million for
Teoscar Hernandez? Yeah. Well, that remains to be seen, but I mean, the outfield market is pretty attractive. Like, you can replace them, and well, we're just going to head to DH, and no one really owns that position. Like, one day it's like Luke Raley, the other day it's like Justin Turner, Mitch Haniger. And speak of, like, Mariners have also got to find a way to get rid of Mitch Haniger because he's just gone. Like, the way I see him, he was basically a less crappier version of Ken Griffey Jr. 2010.
Hey, by the way, last year, Tyler O'Neill hit 241 with a 336 OBP, slugged 511 with an 847 OPS, 31 home runs, 61 RBIs.
And little do people know that he was actually on the Mariners farm system and he was traded away for Marco Gonzalez.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, so, I mean, Mitch Haniger, what should we do with him? Like, find a way to trade him or just eat the contract, give him the Bobby Bonilla?
Well, he has to want to do that. That's the first thing. Like, he would have to want to do that. But if you're in Mitch Haniger's shoes, like, are you going to not opt back in? Of course,
he'd be insane not to.
Because it's going to be 15. It's $15 million, right? So the thing that the Mariners are going to want to do is they're going to want to try to negotiate a buyout, right? So it's like, okay, cool. We're not going to give you 15, but how about we have it and we'll buy you out to not be around here next year, right? Or you can ask him to retire, something like that. But one of the things that this team cannot afford to do is carry Mitch Haniger again in 2025, not even as a DH versus left-handed. No, you can't even do that, right? So it's that situation that could be untenable. But that being said, you would probably assume that if the first thing you have to do is ask him if he's going to opt back in, because if he is, then you can negotiate the buyout. Because I probably would assume that Mitch is going to want to have something. He's going to want to have something in order to go away, or you can look to trade him. If he opts in, then you can look to find a buyer. But as we were talking earlier, if you're looking to trade away somebody to dump salary, you're going to have to give them something in return, along with Mitch, in order to make that happen. And of course, your return is going to be your return is going to be nothing. So the course of the path of least resistance is just negotiating a buyout.
And thank you very much for watching. And if you would like to watch another Mariners video, here's a video with me and Jay Trident Podcast talking about Mariners baseball and for the off season.